Yes, ladies and gentlemen, here we are back at the ESL One Cologne offline qualifier. We are still in a pool of teams that are 2 wins and 2 losses, so this next game means a heck of a lot. Whichever team does lose, of course, gets to move on, like Cloud9 do, and play for a final chance. But again, things are getting pretty slim for those guys already. So, which one of these next 2 teams will be moving on to the major? Firstly, we have Gambit, who fell tantalizingly short of qualifying yesterday when FaZe Clan continued their dominance throughout the entire tournament. But as I've said, I've spoken to Hooch, and he said they want the victory, they believe it to be theirs, and they're going to stop at nothing to get it. And then, of course, there's their opponents, G2 Esports, who've had a blistering run through the entire tournament until yesterday. They faced off against Mousesports on Dust 2, and what happened next, no one could ever have predicted. The halftime score was 14-1. Dennis from Mousesports was playing the game of his life, and there was nothing that G2 could do to stop them. They were there scratching their heads, had no idea what to do, so one must hope that last night they sat down and reassessed things, because a 16-1 loss in a game to qualify for the major is not going to set you in good spirits, and definitely not in good stead to get there in the first place. They're playing out the back, of course, side stage, so we won't be seeing them on stage, but who we will be seeing is the lovely face of Alex Machine Richardson and his band of merry analysts.
Aww, look at he's been so lovely to us. Thanks very much, Mitch. Awesome way to set the scene as well. G2 and Gambit, I think he's kind of hit the nail on the head with the whole no one could have predicted Natu Blue. No one could have foreseen that Dust 2 game, especially considering that prior to that, if we rewind the clocks and sitting with that mindset, that's a G2 that looked almost undefeatable.
Yeah, I mean, this time around, it was just basically the individuals from T2 taking a day off. I mean, they were nowhere to be seen, none of them. I mean, we saw Scream, the one-tap master, just whiffing shots from like behind players, and in situations he'd connect 10 out of 10 times usually. So, I mean, if that keeps happening, obviously not going to win in rounds, are you? And Denny's obviously he was just destroying G2. So, like those 2 things combined, that's the scoreline you're getting. And
Gambit just aren't interested in Dust 2 either. We are jumping straight into this veto, as it, of course, has been a pretty intense few games, keeping the rounds nice and close, which does mean we're, in the interest of time, we keep things short. Dust 2 already taken away by Gambit, despite G2's lackluster performance yesterday. Overpass added to the pile as well. Still haven't seen a single overpass, boys.
We're not going to see that here either. Yeah, both teams have vetoed that map heavily. So, I mean, Train, when I coming into this, I thought would probably be the most logical map for this matchup, to be honest. Both teams really comfortable on the map. We're about to find out, obviously, Cash there left as well. But I would think probably Train is the more obvious out of the 2.
Especially considering what G2 did on Cash right at the start of things.
Yeah, there we have it. It's going to be Train. But I mean, Gambit are no slouches on Train either. I mean, they are really, on the T side, they're good at grinding rounds. They play really slowly, but they somehow just manage to create themselves situations where the man advantage is there and they can just plow through after that.
They come close to qualifying on that map yesterday as well. Just a few key clutches from mainly like Fox and players like that is what allows FaZe Clan, I think, to take that match over Gambit. So I wouldn't actually necessarily count Gambit outright here to lose this one either. I think there's actually a pretty strong chance that they could end up winning it over G2.
And I mean, does that come down to any individuals in particular? You mentioned for FaZe, it was Fox, who actually we were not anticipating anything big. If I asked you player to watch, the last person you really think about was Fox. He turned up in a very big way. For Gambit, who falls into a similar category?
Mo-Show.
You love the Mo Show. You're so proud of that one.
It has to be.
The Mo Show.
It has to be the Mo Show, though.
Okay.
I mean, he's the main opper. He's the star power in this team, in my opinion. The opper on Train is the kind of player who needs to be really mobile, be everywhere, be unpredictable, and he can be that. So that's why I have to go to move.
And then, this counterpart on the other side of things will be Smiths coming into Train. We always highlight the AWPs, especially in a map like this, where they can be very influential, Blue. It should be intriguing to see what Smiths is capable of, as it was already time for that knife round. I promised you a quick one, and quick it shall be.
I think it's more about Scream and Shocks, to be honest with you, considering their recent form, to be honest. Smiths is a decent opper, but he's still, I don't think he's really proven to anyone that he can occasionally put up the numbers, but in the big picture, it's still going to be Shocks and Scream, RPK being the third. Basically the third wheel there.
There's another player to highlight from Gambit, specifically from their match yesterday, and it was actually Adrian, who did pretty well too. Specifically in their first half, I think he kind of fell off a little bit once we got into the second half for those guys, but he was still pretty good at pulling off the defense for the guys over there on for the guys on Gambit, and I feel like he's going to be a pretty crucial factor coming into this map too if he brings a repeat performance from yesterday.
Let's not forget the dark horse as well, Spaze, this newer name, the newer face on Gambit roster, and actually everyone kind of left him rather unaddressed in his previous performance on this map, seeing big stuff from him as well. No pressure for him off his shoulders, and of course that's not the case for this game in total. There's going to be a whole lot of pressure as this is it. Do or die, sink or swim. A trip to the major, or you fall into a very scary last chance saloon. That's going to be coming up in just a moment. Your casters are ready. It's on train again between G2 and Gambit. Maybe they can do good of their promises they made to FaZe just yesterday. Let's have a look how this one does go down. Can G2 shake off that 16-1 defeat yesterday? Let's jump into it.
Thank you very much, and yeah, that is a big point here. Can G2 get over that rather astounding loss that all of us were left with jaws on the floor about? But coming back to that, how are you doing, Halvor? First time casting this event?
Doing pretty good. Can't complain. This area is much cooler than the desk over there. No, well, definitely. But yeah, just much more comfortable atmosphere here.
It's the lack of Alex. It's much nicer.
That's probably what it is.
Yeah, you move Alex away from situation, things generally go better. But getting back down to topic, G2 up against Gambit. This is actually going to be quite an interesting game that, well, we've seen some really interesting sides out of both these teams. G2 decided to not show up. Yeah, in Dust 2. Don't know what happened. Obviously, Mouse played extremely well, but no one expected that low performance from G2 as well.
Yeah, no, pretty much only RPK ended up shooting back for the better part of it. I think Smiths probably had what could be called probably the worst game ever. And that's not...
That's a fair assessment.
Yeah, I think it was something... It was at 15 ADR for that entire game, which is unheard of, really. Just a single tap with a USP every single round will do, you know, will do more damage.
It's not great, is it?
No, so not a lot of things went the way of G2 well, yesterday, but today's a new day, and we've seen teams fluctuate heavily from the first day to the second day already in this tournament. You know, MB, who just qualified, being a good example of that. So no, it's not all doom and gloom for G2. I'm expecting Shocks to, you know, bust out another one of those motivational speeches.
That was actually pretty amazing to listen to.
Exactly, and I wouldn't, you know, put it past them to bust that one out again.
We're going to find out. They might just need it after yesterday's performance. We're about to get into game, and it will be Gambit up against G2. As said, two teams who had to fight incredibly hard to get to this point. G2 with a certain bump in the road, but you'd argue they are pretty well favoured coming into this one. And already this 4 stack towards 8. Body just going to be sitting on towards the B site. And already Natu kind of stayed on the desk, but Gambit do like those slow builds into these rounds, and a double molly and smoke play as well.
Yeah, and well, this is something also Natu has mentioned, the fact that when you see double smokes or just a Molotov in general on this map, it usually indicates towards an inner bomb play, and well, knowing how slow Gambit is, this kind of just default setup is more probably just to feel things out, but they've already used actually smokes and Molotov here, so they're going to commit to this outer bomb site.
This is really unique, actually. This is something we haven't particularly seen. RPK's a little dumbfounded as to where these guys are going. Already Space, though, has made some room down by the old bomb train. He's going to be rotated on, though, from CT, so he's not going to get away with that. But while it happened, Gambit have picked up the kill, so now bomb's going down. They still have the molly, which surely G2 won't expect, and these 3 players on the retake are being shut down. It's down to the 2 superstars, though. Scream and Shocks trying to find an angle to work from. Dozier's out in the open by Electric. Hooch could be taking the dance there with Shocks, and Shocks well shown in the moves, as now taking these guys down one by one. They don't have a kit. Yeah. Still ticking. This is getting out of hand now.
This is pretty much impossible because Mo's still, you know, hanging out in pop, doesn't have to show himself, and well, Gambit just playing that brilliantly. Very different take from what we've seen from the Russian side earlier in this tournament. Much more pace to what they were doing, and worked out brilliantly. Having space, basically setting up that kind of a dividing wall in alley, allowing space to get into the back line, creates so much havoc for G2, and they get kind of split up, have to divide their attention between so many angles that it's almost impossible to actually hold off.
Really unique to see that. Kind of rare to see new things being brought out at this point in the tournament, but
absolutely,
again,
makes it all the more cooler.
Yeah, holding it back this far, but G2 now going to be buying back with a couple of deagles, nothing too much. A 5-7 there. Body as well going to pick that up with RPK. Scout with Shocks. And pretty much the same approach before. Body left to solo out on B. On the other side of things, Gambit going all rifles. So no messing around here. Again, a couple of mollies to maybe define some of these sites.
Yeah, and I really like the fact that they do invest into mollies. We see it way too often that teams will happily go to rifles, but neglect the utility and, you know, end up running into stack or just not checking a corner that could have so easily been cleared out by Molotov. So this is Gambit just taking every precaution possible. well, as of right now, just slow and steady is going to win the race for them. They're going to run into a scout from Shox here, so already taking a bit of damage. Nothing critical just as of yet, but you can see that G2 slowly gathering up towards Yard here, but quick trade. It's actually going to favor Gambit in this situation. Adroid falls up, and all of a sudden there's not really that many G2 members left.
Shock sadly couldn't really support down by the push through from Ivy. Just gets outdone by the rifle in the hands of Adrian. Now Body just trying to do anything he can, but might be a little bit of an attempt in vain. Good start though towards space. 3 players left, still a nade there, no kit. I think that struggle is a little too vertical for him. So Gambit will make it 2. They lose out on 2 rifles throughout that, however, still have enough money to buy back in. Dozier could be lighter than before in this, and actually no, tell a lie, they're going to be sharing out the wealth. So all back to rifles, still no SMGs coming in to try and build up some money, but I guess if you're just playing, you know, round after round to get that on the board, no messing here, just try and focus solely on that, then why not? Again though, it might make the economy a little bit more fragile in the future.
It might, but they're still on the C side. It's going to be cheaper to rebuy as they go along, and if they end up getting in a bit of a rough track, they will have that money loss bonus, luckily, to benefit them. So, but I like this from Gambit. They're literally just saying early on that they're not willing to take any chances. They know that if they get the better rifles, they're going to be very, very happily taking challenges, especially going into the yard when you can get some distance between the CTs and yourself.
It's going to be a big factor coming into this, and you can see already the smokes, well, a smoke, should I say, coming into play. Not going to really do much as of yet. Just keeping them all tucked in, and RPK, Body, Smith, Shox, all kind of focused up down by the push by Ivy, but no one's really coming there. So eyes will have to be down by, I guess, team main.
And this time around, no mollies left on Gambit's side, so that bit of a trio around that 7 train might be a bit of an issue as Gambit push out, but Mal and Space seem to have no issues clearing that up, and they're just going to chip in as well. And so far, these anti-ecos working out swimmingly. Scream's still up, and Sniper might be able to get 1 pick off here, but in the grand scope of things, whoa, okay, won't be talking about those 1 taps for a while as Scream goes down without getting anything done.
I'm surprised how long it took Gambit to actually look up there, if I'm honest.
It actually kind of reminded me of the pistol round with Renegades.
Oh, not your
yeah.
Oh god, that was
had a bit of a rough
not
go
great.
of it.
Yeah, that's not one I want to remember. I was like, please just land the shot. make me not have to cast this. But Shox now, P250. I don't know if there's anyone close enough by to really do too much with it. That's starting to push the kind of range that's becomes incredibly effective. So, gonna head out down Ivy. That's about it.
Yeah, just gonna try to push up as close to T connector as possible and see if you can find at least 1 frag. This looks very likely though. Almost found Smo, but he's gonna deal with that pretty handedly. So far, 2 very good anti-ecos coming in from Gambit, and I think this is the point where if they can fully stock up on the nades, they didn't lose anyone, they're just going to slow the pace down by quite a bit. And now it's really on to G2 to actually be the aggressor here, and try to force Gambit into making decisions they don't want to do, or be, you know, G2 having, or taking the challenge of actually taking away map control.
Well, this is what I want to see. I've had to cast flip side on here when they were deciding they didn't want to take any map control on CT side and just kind of sit back. So I'm hoping that these guys take a little more initiative. I can imagine they will, but still very early days, not really having to go to those lengths. First real gun round coming in for G2, so again, they'll be testing the waters themselves here, see what they're coming up against, and it looks like a very decisive play from Gambit. This is very uncharacteristic of them, very quick. Very committed as well, and Shox is going to have a bit of a surprise. Leaping down from ahead, it is Dozier barreling forward. Bomb's gone down, and these 3 are shut out again. G2 are going, don't you dare make this a 16-1 scoreline. I can't deal with it. I cannot handle it. They need to get that round on the board mentally. And Smiths, this is a hard retake. I don't think they've got much going in for this, but RPK still putting up a good fight.
Well, honestly, really, they're getting fragged right now, G2. Gambit giving it a bit too much space actually to work with. I would have expected G2 to kind of just save it because, as you can see, the Molotov is still in place for Gambit, so no way for Smith to actually get on this bomb safely, and he's figuring this out. Gonna try to find 1 more exit kill before he backs on out, and will do so. So Adren is probably gonna be able to survive, gonna be able to get away from that bomb. Still very, again, the change of pace from Gambit from what we saw in the first game on Train is just extremely drastic, and I think that might be catching G2 off guard, because you can see Shox, he didn't really have, or he wasn't aware of it, he just wasn't expecting it at the time.
The thing is that if you go that quick and you're known as a slower team, generally you're going to see the CT side with their limited amount of utility just holding back. They're not going to do the initial kind of stopping power because they don't expect you to come out flying from upper. But there it was. Shox just got pinned in by Dozier jumping on him, basically. So that was a bit of a shock to the system, I imagine, for G2. So now what do they expect coming into this? Well, that's something you got to look out for is Mo. Again, the Mo show, something that Natu, we can't stop him talking about more than anything. He just keeps going on about it. But no, it is a very warranted thing. If he starts getting warm himself, that's a big threat here. Again, quite an impactful AWPer, and Smith's having a bit of a downturn, at least throughout this tournament, and a little to what we're used to, the consistency not there. That could be a huge problem now for G2, but hopefully they recover. They still have the M4 now with Smiths. They're looking to get some control down by Ivy.
Just going to throw out a flash. Not actually going to go too aggressive after that, but you might be suspecting Mo actually having that passive positioning to back up his teammate. And not going to get anything out of it, actually. Just a lot of damage being given to Smith. I'm actually surprised that they won't swap the weapon over to the hands of RPK, because he still has light armor. I'll be able to do some more damage than Smith is in this type of situation. But now we're seeing more of what we expect from Gambit. Obviously, they know they're going up against Nico, so they don't want to take any silly risks, but they're just feeling their way forward. Already got the man advantage, so they can pretty much go wherever they want at this point. As long as they use their utilities, they should be all right.
Oh, this is lovely as well. They pulled the 4 players over towards B, and it is a very nicely constructed A hit. Already Space going to be pushing forward as far as he can to try and get a nice quick angle, and anyone trying to rotate. He's going to put himself up top just to keep an eye above. Yeah. Bomb's now planted. Everyone's in a really good position. Gambit coming into this with their heads really screwed on now. Yeah,
absolutely. They seem very focused. And G2 in that situation, they kind of have to go for something after a while. If they can't find information, they just have to stack a bomb site and hope for the best. Didn't work out this time. RPK will find Doja before getting taken out by Mo. Oh, body does find Adren as well, so there's still hope here for G2 to hold on to a couple of weapons and ease into that next spy round. See Smith's somewhat surprisingly actually still hunting for frags here. He's actually going to find space as well.
Well, to be fair, Gambit's money is far from perfect. They do have AK on Adren, but everyone else is kind of a little worse for wear. Mo on 800. Hooch, fine on 4.6, but they could be okay now coming into this round with the bomb going off and another one back-to-back. But doing a little bit of damage here and there might have cost, or at least brought G2 with a chance to get themselves on a decent buy now.
Yeah, no, it's definitely going to help out. You can see the saved weapons doing a fair bit for the economy. You can see Smith dropping off his call to buy an op, and they go directly to a double op setup. And we saw what happened to flip side yesterday.
Not like this.
When they went to a double op setup early on, it completely wrecked their economy. So G2 needs to find some results immediately if they're going to try to hold on to this.
Okay, let's see how this goes. Let's see what Gambit bring to this, because they're showing some real difference in the way they're playing. Nice adaptation, different approaches, different pacing. I want to see this again. They can just hit the brakes here. We saw how much Flipside struggled coming up against a double AWP when they were doing those default A hits from Optic. So that could be another thing that maybe Gambit would look at if they want to do that, but how will they find out it's a double AWP here? You don't maybe assume that someone will go to it at this point. Maybe they've read into this well. We'll find out. If they hear Shox or see Shox with that AWP, that could give away a little bit of the game here, but oh, that's Hooch, you got to be careful if you want to step into that one. And again, Gambit doing something that we're more, I guess, attuned to, accustomed to, this very slow, methodical, clearing out pixel by pixel place. And they've heard at least the AWP there. So they've baited out that shot, so they know there's an AWP on B. Whether or not they'll realize it's Shox and still has body there with him is yet to be found out.
Yeah, and you can tell that G2 has taken an extremely passive setup here. Two players playing the backside of Yard, and it's, well, pretty much just screaming as any sort of vision of what's going on towards the auto bomb site, but doesn't really matter as they're committing to the inner bomb site here. Body's gonna find 2 frags. Great job from him, but Space gonna shut him down, and well, no one else from G2 really around to stop this bomb fight coming in from Adren.
No, they had a molly on RPK, but he was pretty far off. So now the retake's favorable to G2, considering they do have the 4 to 3 players, but a double AWP is hard to put into place, and Adren's gonna dance on it, just buy some time, keep him back as much as possible, but you can see G2 moving as one, and it's RPK again at the forefront here, doing the substantial amount of damage for G2. So now Space has a molly himself. They don't have a smoke left for G2. Oh, the timing was perfect. Very nicely done there, just on the borderline of being able to use it. The kills came in, and there's a defuse. So just predicting that well enough and quickly enough, refusing Gambit a chance to use the molly. First one on the board for G2.
Yeah, and a very important one. Keeping 4 people alive, both ops as well. It's going to do a lot for you, so Body's going to probably be rewarded for getting those 2 first frag, being dropped the weapon. Actually, he's going to buy up himself. Doesn't need help from anybody. He's a strong, independent Frenchman. But Body right now, oh, he pretty much saved that round for G2.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, completely killing the well, firepower from Gambit that they actually committed to the bomb side, because they seem pretty intent to actually have two people on the backside. One to hold off fire and one guy to obviously watch for backstabs. And that way Gambit can't really get control over the inner bomb side while pushing forward.
Yeah, those 2 kills absolutely fundamental to that first round on the board. Now, Gambit going to look for their next response, and a lot of pressure coming out, and Screams on the receiving end. He is having a bit of a slow start to this matchup so far. Smiths will at least quell that initial issue, leaving it now down to this 4v4 double. Orb still into play. And you've seen the Gambit aren't really rushing anything anymore. They went for that initial sort of foray towards hitting the A site, then just slowed it down a bit. You still have Space toying with the idea of making more of a presence, but again, they need to find out the information they need. They've still got time. They've still got a minute on the board. There's no rush here particularly. And look how far back G2 is starting to sit. There is no one pushing up here. They're going to be playing right to those last couple of seconds.
Yeah, and actually seeing G2 playing so far back is a little bit unusual, especially when they are, well, basically opting to play 2 people on each bomb site. They're really counting on Smith to come through, and he's going to do that, finding the first frag onto Space here. And RPK is in a really good position already to find out Doja. Oh, actually whips the shot. Doja getting the better of the tank right there in that situation, and that's going to open up the bomb site. And retakes out into yard here is really hard as Mo. It's an absolutely nutty shot. Well, already being at a man disadvantage. Not the greatest situation for G2. Smith's with an op as well, so you're not as mobile as you'd like to be.
Yeah, and Smith is not being given any step into the site. They'll have to commit to pull these players out. You've got Dozier watching the cross with Hooch, and then just Mo playing the bomb pretty much. They can pretty much create a really nice crossfire off the back of this. And look at the damage already coming through. Dozier's caught Smith, and he might just get another here. There it is. It's Hooch actually to find body in the end. And this is a real struggle for G2. Checking in with the scoreboard here, I've got to say it. Where has Scream been? He's normally not necessarily a forerunner on this map, but just generally, Scream's been so much more present than this. 0 and 5.
For him, it's a bit of a flashback from yesterday's game versus Mouse Sports. I think it took him about 10 rounds before he even got a single frag. And that's definitely not something that G2 can be able to deal with, especially because he is one of those players who play more towards the front of the yard area, actually. So if he's not able to find frags at all, that puts so much more pressure on RPK and Smith. And well, I'm actually surprised they decided even to attempt that retake 2v3 because, well, they don't have the luxury of spending too much money going into this round. You can see Scream with a Mag 7, which you definitely don't see too often.
No, he has been playing up close. You called it perfectly. He's been playing pretty much by electric or kind of pushing towards T-Con. Now he's going to get towards Pop, so could have some real presence here with the Mag 7. That's certainly not too much to, not much of a stretch to get to.
Yeah, no, he pretty much has to play up close like this. If he wants to be effective with the Mag 7. But you can see there's still a giant divide between Scream and any of his teammates. But luckily for him, he has Smiths hitting some shots here, and he's going to find a Dren towards main. But the rest of the Gambit team slowly working their way towards that inner bomb side. And it seems like G2 is onto this because they've already rotated Smiths over.
Problem is, though, Body this time doesn't have what he had before, which was full utility and a good gun. But he's going to make the most of this Mag 7, but he misses the first shot, but makes it up on the second try. There goes Hooch, who's having a slow start himself to this, not quite having the impact he'd want, but again, how much can you do on a flying Mag 7? And Mo might just be on the receiving end. No, Space, perfect timing, playing it from upper, leaving Shocks and Smiths a little bit worse for wear on this site now, but Mo, if only you knew. That was absolutely spot on to Shockby. You just can't wall bang it. But Space again, massive impact from that upper balcony, that catwalk area, leaving Smith now very much isolated. The backup's on the way, but it's still a little way off here, and he's going to try and play ahead of this. Space is still on the side, bearing in mind, and Smith whiffs it. He needs to hit that in one, and Space gets another opportunity. What is going on with G2? They're allowing chances here, and Space is on a tear. That's 4, and he's looking for the 5th, and he's spraying it wildly, but Scream finally stops it. But it's Mo there anyway, and another on the board for Gambit. This is a huge game from them, and what a start to their T side.
They couldn't have asked for anything better, and Space, who was, well, like Alex highlighted, he was kind of the forgotten piece of this Gambit lineup, comes through shining in a situation where they go down 2 men, actually.
Yeah.
And Space just finds something out of nothing there. Those 2 picks on the inner bomb site, allowing them to get down, get the bomb plant. Well, now G2 are really in a rough situation. They're all sitting on around 2K. So this might even have to be a double eco, which in a situation like this, you're desperate for rounds. So.
And reminding ourselves, even historically between these two teams, with the vast majority of the lineup present, let's bear in mind, obviously there has been changes. Gambit have never beaten these guys anytime soon.
Yeah, it's pretty dominating, or pretty dominating results in G2's favor as well.
Yes, they're not even particularly close games normally, so whatever you want to take out of this or that sort of statistic, I guess up to you guys at home, but it's certainly condemning if you're a G2 fan at this point that it's not looking so great at 1-7. Body had a little bit of a peer through left and right, but Body's come in and there you go. Hooch is the one to claim him. This is shoddy from G2. Let's kind of break down what's maybe happening here as the money's they're going to reinvest, but is there anything we can say about G2? It looks like they're just being outplayed at the moment.
They really are, and honestly, I'm quite worried for them, and I'm missing the aggressive, pretty much play style that they could bring out here in the yard area. They're giving Gambit so much room to work with, and pretty much what they rely on. If anybody gets picked off, they have to simply hope that Smiths or Shocks, if he has an op in his hand, to actually find some early frags before the entire outer side gets locked up by smokes, and they have to go for a retake that doesn't really favor them. And with such a low economy that they're running with right now, they're not going to have the utility either to really be successful.
Well, not a single person has a kit here as well, so these retakes, if they do have to come in, are going to be extraordinarily hard.
Yeah, Scream doesn't even have armor. So yeah, it's extremely tough for G2 in this situation, and they're not really changing things up. They still have that double man set up in the back lines out in yard, playing 2 people on inner.
I'm not sure if it's necessarily required. I don't know. We'll see. Again, the scoreline's really just saying what they're doing isn't working, and they should probably look for changes here. But they just maybe at this point they're kind of scared to change. Well, if it gets worse, but how much worse can it get?
No,
You're going to have to make some adaptation.
Exactly. At this point, it's kind of reminiscent of what we saw versus Mouse Sports yesterday, because there's nobody really from G2 who's actually standing out or giving Gambit a big fight. This has been pretty decisive runs coming out from the Russian squad. So. No, if you're G2, you need to change something up, definitely, and with lacking utilities and whatnot, I'm not really sure why you want to wait and let Gambit execute onto you.
Well, we're going to find out if they have maybe a trick up their sleeve or an idea of what's going on. RPK has 3 players about to breach this. No one's helping him down by the end of Ivy. It's all on him. He flashes it. Here's the Mo's there. Now swings out. Good play from RPK. Sick play from RPK. Dominating that corner, but where's the support? There it is. Finally, he gets some play there coming out from the others. Smiths and Scream chime in with their own, and we get another round on the board. But I've got to say it, if RPK didn't get those 2 kills, then I wouldn't have backed G2 to win that round.
No, absolutely not. That was RPK coming up big in a much-needed situation. And really, that's what they need G2 at this point, because, well, as we kind of alluded to, nobody really from G2 has had that big round to make an impact where they just save it. I guess Body's interplay, getting those 2 frags is the closest thing you could have gotten at this point. And that's really not a whole lot to bank off of 11 rounds in.
It's really not.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, luckily for G2, the economy of Gambit isn't too excellent. As you can see, Adrian is already sitting down on Tech 9, but now we're finally seeing some aggression coming out of G2. Scream pushing it into teammate here, and this should be a pretty big tell depending on how far he wants to go with it as to what Gambit wants to do. And it also makes it a lot safer to just play with 3 people out on that outer bomb site.
Yeah, Body and Shocks better be ready. They should be. Good positioning from Shocks here. Nice. I'm glad he didn't commit towards the upper side of things. Body's able to cover that off just well enough. And look at this combination. That's the play we want to see. There's Body doing damage back. Spade's not going to have the time he had before. And now it's Dozier left in the 1v5. Now, he may be a god of certain things, but 5 kills may not be one of them at this point. 50 seconds. Bomb's already down by B. And even Scream watching the back in case. There it is to close. And that little bit of aggression from Scream trickled that information down. You saw how Shocks was ready. You saw how Body was there. Those guys were primed for that push.
Yeah, absolutely. Ready to go at an instant, and I'd like to see more of this from G2, whether it be aggression towards Pop, like we saw Scream do with his Max 7, or just pushing in towards man to get some control. That's all I want to see, and they could potentially actually get Smiths going aggro with the op. We saw him do it one time after he was able to save an op, or save a Colt. I mean, but outside of that, hasn't really been too much from G2 to actually dictate the pace of the game. Luckily for them, though, Gambit deciding to eco up here, and not really much of an investment, just 1 smoke on Hooch and a bunch of P250s. And they're just going to try to get the bomb down here and hope for the best.
Yeah, pray for the plant at this point. And actually Dozier catching out Body it should allow for that plant to go down relatively safely. There it is.
Mission accomplished.
Clean it up, and Adrian's found himself an M4 somehow and actually right amongst them, but not going to be allowed to get loose on that. Find anything else. There goes Hooch. Yeah. And even though
Mo's on a bit of a detour.
He just wanted to look at the rest of the map, then alright, leave him alone.
It's gonna
Chill out. God.
brutally interrupted by RPK.
Yeah, how dare you.
Didn't pay for the tour guide.
Just hopped on the back of the bus. All right, G2 back with not a respectable score at this point, but their money's looking better, so they can buy back into this pretty well. They've got AK still on RPK and on Shocks. Nicely set. However, Gambit not so much so. Their money's still very much down low considering the scoreline. I'm hoping we get to see them kind of close out with a little bit more fire here, because that'd be a very condemning half for G2 if Gambit get more. But at the moment, G2 building back in a little bit here. 3 in the row now. So maybe they've just found whatever was going wrong.
Well, definitely. Just getting that initial information does a lot for you. And now you can see RPK. He's finally starting to move aggressive. It's much as that there's nobody in his immediate area, but you know, every little bit helps at this point. And G2, instead of just playing completely blind, actively searching for information and something they can work off of. They're still got to play with that double setup on inner bomb site. Body taken up on higher, actually. And Shox holding that lower area. So that's pretty much a setup that's waiting for Shoxy to, you know, as soon as he pulls the trigger, that's the sign for Body to go. But instead, Gambit, they're going to execute on that outer bomb site. And Scream goes down to Adren almost instantly. So openings galore for Gambit.
Yeah, and RPK is still so certain there may be someone coming from Ivy. He's not even able to turn around. Look at Smith's HP, it's 5. He's going to be finding it so hard to find impact here if someone from Gambit decides to make a play. Body's going to be pop flashing down. There is someone down by pop, that would be Space, but Space completely flashed. Actually comes out of it and still lands the shot. So that's going to be one avenue of approach cut off from G2. The rest trying to build back in and having no such luck. Shocks, the only one to really land a shot here on this retake. RPK's trying to find some room to operate. He gets it. That's Adrian down now on the bomb site. Smoke goes in, but it's 3 players still alive in Space. Does have the molly, and wow, no need to use it here. Dozier's already caught out Shocks. There's Mo towards RPK. And a team ace coming out for Gambit. Pretty much every single player picking up a kill. And well, Gambit certainly strike back there. Money's still okay though for G2, so they can buy back here. So it's not all over just yet.
It isn't, but no, round-wise, G2 are not looking too hot.
No.
So they do have the money, but they still need some more rounds. I'm still going to go to that double op setup. And honestly, I don't think that's been the salvation that G2 has been looking for. At least it hasn't been working out too well up to this point.
Yeah, you're spot on. As you said though, it's the aggression that's been working out every now and then. Body already pushing up actually might be a relatively telling sign. There's no one there to challenge him. Space is around the corner by the top of pop, so they could have a little bit of an exchange, but Gambit are doing this slow encroaching round, so it's hard to read into this just yet.
Yeah, and one of the things that Gambit might be getting aware of is the fact that G2 are, well, more often than not actually playing with 2 people on that inner bomb set, which does make Yard a much easier target. And, well, they do have a ton of nades to work with here, so they could pretty much set up for, well, the identical execute they did last round here. And you can see Joe just climbing up, and he's got 2 buddies with him, so this is going to be the exact same execute here.
Yep.
From the looks of it.
As you said, when you have 2 players on B, that A side looks rather tantalizing to go for, but Scream this time decides to land a shot. Adrian goes down, Space responds, but it's all going to be Scream here at the moment. It hasn't been really challenged yet, finding a good angle to operate from, but now down so low. He's still on it. That's 3. Looking even for more here. He's got a point to prove, and I don't blame him. For a man of his caliber, he is finally starting to turn up. This could be the ace. He finally gets shut out by Hooch. But that was the performance you want to see from Scream, just sheer dominance. But there we have it. Defuse will come out, and G2 survive another round here. So I guess, well, you can put 2 on B when you have Scream just playing like that.
Yeah, you definitely can if you get 4 kills around. Problem for G2, though, they haven't gotten it often enough. But definitely works out that time around. Gambit, with getting that bomb plant down, will get another buy-in for the last round of the first half. And well, given how things started, if G2 can get to 6th round, that's the result that they should be okay with. All things taken into consideration. And well, Gambit, they're actually putting up the pace here. Adren moving right out onto Yard.
I'm wondering if he's going to be matched by the others, though, because they are not going towards A. It looks like a bit of a quick B hit, and Smith already has an idea this may be coming. And it's going to be Body, who's been doing wonderfully at this already. He's going to do pretty well so far, but it's Smith's to be supportive, and perfect support too. Space being plucked out of the air, leaving Dozier a little bit worse for wear. And how can he get himself out of this one? And actually, Shocks and RPK still think this is A. They've backed away from this. Smith's is all alone now. He's going to surely check for Dozier. He has to check below him, and he does. Spots it out. That's the bomb. Call comes up. Shocks and RPK get the hell back to B. Adrian's en route, but it's a little too late. Turns the flash well enough, and funny enough, actually flashed Smith more than anyone. But a good close for Smith there. 4 kills for him, and perfect positioning in the end. But a redeeming factor for G2 there in the half. However, this is still a strong lead for Gambit. Guys, we're going to go to a very short break, but when we're back, we'll be jumping into the second half between G2 and Gambit. All right, welcome back, ladies and gents. 9-6 is the score on the half. Gambit had a bit of a tear throughout that first half, getting up to round 10 almost flawlessly. However, G2 decided they wanted to turn up, especially Scream as well, started to have a bit of a better game. But we are back underway here. On the T side now is G2, and they're going straight in towards B. And Dozier better be ready for what's coming his way. Does somehow find Smiths, but already Gambit having to rotate over here as G2 have their mind set.
Adren planning to pick onto Adren, but no. Well, Adren finding the RPK, but Body's quickly going to retaliate with 2 frags on his own. Just continuously taking the fights here versus Gambit, and well, for now it's working out pretty nicely. Bomb still hasn't gone down, though. That's dropped in front of the bomb train. Well, Mo. He didn't want any of that, and, well, I think someone from G2 forgot that they had the bomb on them.
I don't disagree. I don't know why it would have ever been there otherwise. I've seen bombs kind of fly off in ridiculous directions, but not
that
quite
far.
that far. Yeah. And then Shox had a chance to actually go on a decent flank, but no, somehow those USPSs were absolutely crisp. So Gambit do get themselves started here in the second half with that first round win, which will, of course, allow them to go straight into the bye. Now, if we throw our minds back to their T side, they were straight up to those rifles. No SMGs were seen. Here we do at least have the MP9 coming out as scout for Mo, so it kind of makes sense. You want to build up more of an economy here as much as possible because it is so tough to break back in if you don't.
Absolutely. Well, on Gambit side, they have to be a bit worried. Versus space on train, they struggled quite a bit on their CT side. They even got broken, just going by an early buy coming out from FaZe. So they have to be on the lookout, and this is a pretty hefty investment coming in from the side of G2. Only Smith's really not opting to go for that armor because he's looking to get to that op. He's been doing a pretty good job of actually finding op frags here in this game so far, sitting on 14 frags. Well, it's just a slow and steady pace coming in from G2. Gonna try to get a jump on Hooch. He does have backup though, sitting around 7 train. Actually, they're gonna focus on space first, and that allows for Hooch to come around the back, but Shoxy with a well-placed deagle shot takes him down as well, and quite a bit of damage being done to Mo as well.
Yeah, Adrian, though, should have been helping out on that T-Con push. He didn't see anyone making it through, so they kind of got isolated. There you go. Mo's going to shut down the threat that was building from Shox, and leaving Smith, sadly, with only 19 HP to try and do anything. Going to get found in the end, and Adrian makes up for maybe a little bit of a slip earlier of just a line of sight not being quite in the right place.
Frags.
Yeah, just, you know, build them
not?
up. Build them up. All right, 11-6. And G2 this time, not going to be able to get too much. They could maybe get a couple of pistols if they want to do a flash or 2 here or there. By down to around, what, 2K, I guess. So yeah, P250's coming out. Smith's absconding away from it, building towards that AWP, as you said. And more SMGs now coming out. We've got Space and Hooch both going for those because, well, this should be a massacre. Should.
Yeah, should. That being the key word here. So Shoxy with that one flash, probably going to pop that over the little window in Dark Walls here, and basically G2 are just going to hope and pray that they get their bomb plant down to make this round worthwhile. Well, I guess semi-luckily for them, they're not the strongest defense here on the inner bomb side, but Doja with a great place nade already is just going to start mowing people down. Get some help from space in the meantime, but Scream finds 2 frags. Dren and Doja going down, but in the big picture of things, that's not the worst thing in the world for Gambit. They had pretty cheap buys coming into these 2 anti-ecos, as you mentioned. So, not the end of the world. He was already planning to go up to that op. And Dren's sitting pretty with quite a bit of money. He's actually going to drop the weapon as well.
So the one thing I would say was I think RPK didn't realize he could be seen through that smoke, then he was just casually wandering across it. But back into this, we do, as you mentioned, see the AWP now with Mo. We've got the scout with Hooch, so not sure if that's the best gun to be having, but I'm sure we'll make it work here. Hooch is the master.
Hooch is crazy.
Exactly. Hooch will be just fine. Out of everyone to give a scout, I believe in him to make it work. But G2 going to make a bit of a mad dash here, and it's going to catch Space out a little bit, but he adjusts well. He has the support still with him. Predicts Shox making the play through out T-Con, and he leaves Scream left alive, and a bit of a hap-handed play from G2, considering that was their rifle round. They just kind of ran out towards A. Didn't expect people pushed up or just watching their push.
Yeah, and from looking at Gambit, the way they were set up, they were seemingly expecting it. Doja was the only one holding that inner bomb site, and he was holding it from the CT connector. So it took us, a total of 2 seconds before Gambit had all 5 players within reach of G2's push. And now, well, it's back to eco time for G2, and they're actually going to invest a little bit into this. Not the crazy amount, though.
Just gonna turn around.
Yeah, now you need to make work of that scout.
Oh, he just gets mowed down. Absolute Tech 9 train coming into station. Space going to find one. RPK gets down low. That's pretty sick. Now 4v2. This is brilliant, but oh, they just don't expect the rest to be on the site or so close by. Dozier with a quick flank, but it's Scream to take the initiative, find the fight towards Space, leaving Dozier in the 1v2. He's got a kid, he's got a molly, and he just runs at them with no reason to. G2 allowed room to work here, and with such power coming down Ivy, Hooch just did not expect that.
Yeah, Scout not being the best weapon to deal with that kind of a situation, and this is something that Gambit struggled with versus FaZe. That extremely fast-paced push, not necessarily towards Ivy, but just into Yard in general. So G2 perhaps finding a weakness in the armor of Gambit.
I wonder if we're going to see more of that. Again, it's quite risky considering G2 are on such a tentative scoreline here, but they could definitely go for some of that. And wondering how much they can really punish Gambit for the same flaws that they faced off against FaZe. So keep your eyes towards that. At the moment, Hooch being far more attentive to Ivy, but he only has that 5-7 and 2 flashes. Does have the armor as well, but not exactly the perfect position. They're actually giving up a lot of that area, not playing off the corner of it, only Hooch watching it. This looks like it's going to be an A hit here, but we'll have to wait and see. Again, with a minute on the board, G2 could go anywhere they want still. There's plenty of time to pull themselves through, but with 3 of them coming back towards that T-spawn where those smokes go from, so it's quite likely to be at least an A intended hit.
Yeah, very similar actually to what Gambit were doing a couple of rounds in a row there on their T side. And similarly, there's a Gambit player close up here towards T main in that space. He's going to find Body almost before Body expects to see anyone at all. And Scream has made his way out into Yard here. Won't actually find anything. Smith is going to return the frag, but at this point he's all by his lonesome and will be taken down. So as soon as G2 slow things down, Gambit seems to have a much better grasp of what to do.
100%, and really they're able to focus so much into that round that really G2 just looked disjointed. They made the push, they made the plays, but it felt one by one, being picked apart. And that's what is this by?
This is...
What is this by?
Who knows? This is actually, yeah, this does not make a lot of sense, but this is, well, I guess this is desperation coming in from G2 here. Double op, they're solely going to rely on getting pickoffs with these ops. That's pretty much all they have to bank off of. They do have a couple of smokes and quite a few flashes, but how they're actually going to be able to, they can't really do a fast push with those double ops. So
you can't go anywhere with them. It's
exactly. So if Gambit just plays this as safely as possible and doesn't give away any frags, and while Space is moving on a Blade's edge here, well, got his head cut off.
That's what you get, Space. No doing that. But that's going to kind of probably infuriate Gambit, unsure as to what they're coming up against, not knowing what the money's like, already seeing 1 AWP out, let alone expecting the 2. This is a very, very, it's a wild card that G2 have pulled out of the pack here.
Absolutely.
So if they're going to go for something, I guess to sit in the double peaks, that's not going to help. Shox, perfect adjustment towards Hooch. Now they're baffled, Gambit, sitting there scratching their heads going, but there was an AWP at T, but Smith's had the AWP. How does Shox, what the hell? They have 2 AWPs coming out? Okay. Suddenly, let's see what they can find here, Gambit, because this one looks all but over. Unless Smith really does get challenged down again. Adrian's got to be careful now, being pinched in from behind as well. You've got RPK and Shox trying to find room to get that frag, but Dozier's pulled up, but he can't get anything done. It's Adrian only with the trade out, leaving Dozier to be pinched, and there you have it. Great, but weird as hell play from G2. It works, but I just don't know if it should have.
It was absolute desperation, and pretty much still, obviously for Gambit, it's almost impossible to actually, or it's not logical for them to expect 2 ops to be in play for G2 in that kind of a situation. So obviously for us, having that eagle eye vision, it's very easy to say that all they have to do at this point is hold back and wait for G2 to kind of execute into you, because they don't really have any good way of executing into you. It doesn't pan out that way.
It's even broken G2's economy though. So, excuse me, Gambit's economy. They're back down to P250. So I guess a worthy risk.
Well, absolutely. It paid off in the end, yeah. So you can't really argue with the results. It's a lot to bank that potential qualification for Cologne on.
That's the scary part, isn't it? That one of these 2 teams will be in that position to go to the major now.
Yeah, and well, seeing how it's a full eco on the side, or pretty much a full eco, we have with Deagle on Space and a couple of P250s, but not much of an investment from the Gambit side. So for D2 right now, just expend every nade you have and try to clear out as much as possible, because it is a yard stack coming in from Gambit.
And there are those P250s, as you said, 1 Deagle there with Space, but Hooch gets a glimpse and gets punished for it. Hooch is having a couple of issues now. It was Shox to shut him down before. He's been a little overwhelmed at this point. They've been able to do those A hits very nicely with kind of 2 pincers coming together. So again, you've got to be a little bit cautious of that, and The rest of Gambit now far more vulnerable as to here comes the hit. They do have one player up top, that is Dozier. They're peeking for it. Yeah, they've seen the shoulder. No one able to trade into it or find a bit of an angle. Lovely work from RPK. Just very cleanly dealing with that. And G2 building back now. They needed a clean round there and they've got it. And the money's still not ideal for Gambit either.
Well, as you mentioned, Twitch has been having a bit of an issue holding down that Ivy area, or even trying to stem the tide coming in from the G2 side when they decide to push. So we might see Gambit trying to make a bit of an adaptation and have someone else help him out in that area, because he's also the one who oftentimes takes the hit for Gambit. So if anybody else needs a weapon, he'll happily drop it off for them and just sit there with a pistol or an SMG.
Yeah. So hopefully he can find some, just a little bit of a performance increase at this point, because so far Gambit not struggling. I think struggle is the wrong word. I think that they might just need to kind of reassess how they're approaching this. We haven't seen that much aggression from them either.
We did, yeah, exactly.
So you can kind of apply the same theory that we're putting towards G2 on towards Gambit now, that we haven't seen them pushing too much for information yet. Dozier's been pretty spot on with the rotate though, to be fair. He's not been caught out particularly, he hasn't been overrun that much, but I want to see that little bit of aggression again.
Yeah, now outside of the initial pistol coming in from G2, there hasn't really been too much pressure put on that inner bomb site, so Dozier's kind of allowed to help out into Yard pretty early on, and they don't really have to dedicate 2 players on that site.
Oh, here we go. This time it's not just Hooch, at least on the receiving end. There is a CZ and a 5-7 though, so this can still cause a great deal of damage, and G2, they can't really afford for their money to be anything other than robust throughout this game, considering they're against a team with 14 rounds. Hooch is going to be wildly spraying in. Dozier's caught out body. What is going on here? Adrian wildly goes in with a CZ, can't make it connect, but Dozier, again, this is unbelievably bad for G2. Shox tries to make a play. Hooch is there now. It's a 1v2, and Smith has to hold on to this. Hooch recovers a gun. Spade's in still a good position here. A little bit open on that angle, had to stick in, I guess, but now 1v1, Hooch, the player who I'd called out for a bit of a lacking performance, needs to come up, but no, Smith saves the day in the end with that Tech 9, again clawing 4 kills on the board for G2, putting themselves into double digits, 10-14. That round shouldn't have been as close as it was, but thank God for Smiths saving the day there for G2.
And Gambit already, getting something in return for putting 1 extra guy towards Ivy. G2 definitely not expecting it, which allows Mo to pick up that early first frag. And even though they don't win the round, it's a pretty significant bump into, or dent into, the economy of G2. So if Gambit were to actually be able to take advantage of this and win this upcoming round, G2 are in all kinds of trouble. And we're seeing some forward movement here from Gambit. Well, we were actually, and then Adren decides to back up and go towards inner, but Space lurking around in the same position we saw Scream actually do a lot of damage from.
Yeah, eventually. It started off pretty slow for him until he started to play that sort of spot, but I really don't like the way they're leaving Hooch pretty much to solo out this spot. Again, though, he's not going to get too much pressure. That's going to be body. And the strange part being that the time that Adrian and Dozier are both on B, that's actually when the 3 players are looking towards it here. So if they stay dedicated towards this is a good position for Gambit to be in, and a hard one for G2 to break through, considering that Shox and RPK, well, they're the 2 big players at the moment. I'd say Smiths is certainly up there as well, but it's going to be a hard one to hold for Adrian and Dozier. Yeah,
especially because they have very limited utility. Dozier has 1 Molotov, and then they have 2 flashes altogether to hold this off from. With the smokes raining in, actually, Adrian's going to use the smoke in there, flash early on. What a perfect timing!
Absolutely sublime there from Adrian. He's going to be able to single out too. The Shox and Smith Scream combo go down. He adjusts perfectly towards RPK, leaving again Smiths and Body, the last 2 alive. And Smiths not going to go down without a fight, but this could be Gambit getting on towards match point. Smiths digs as deep as he could, picking up 2 in a high pressure situation. But Gambit, this is insane. This is them 1 round away now from getting through to the major pretty much.
This is absolutely nuts and very unexpected, but a bit of a happy accident for Adren. The second he throws out that last flashbang that he has available, just finds 2 frags of it, off of it. Well, you can see that little bit of a dent in the economy. We're talking about Scream not having too much utility, RPK on a Tech 9.
This is possibly a bit of a disaster to make it for G2. A real devastating loss against Mouse, and then this possibly coming up on the horizon would not be great. But let's look at Ivy. Again, it was a weak point for Gambit in this game. It looked a little bit vulnerable, a bit of a sore spot, and G2 love to just poke that. So, Hooch and Space actually this time, kind of close enough by that they may be able to combine something towards it. Not exactly what they're watching right now, but G2 have to pull themselves into this game now.
Oh, they absolutely do. Well, just kind of roaming around, see if you can find anything at all. G2 not really moving much. They're hoping for that smoke to fade and Hooch to take a gander in towards Ivy and get picked off, but he seemed to have learned from previous mistakes. Not really moving much at all.
There is a huge disparity in utility here. G2 still have a lot to work with, not as much as I know they'd like, but enough to form something from. Whereas for Gambit, they're lacking so much, but look at this play up Ivy, creeping its way forward. Hooch, you better be ready for the answer this time. You have been struggling until now, but that flash doesn't catch you, so you have all the time in the world. And there we have it. Space supports him perfectly. RPK and Body get destroyed. Smith, Scream, and Shox make it just the 2. Have to do everything for the French side here, up against the 3. But there's Scream finally finding his way back in. But in a 2v1, Scream has 2 HP and would need a hero's level of effort to pull his team into another chance at taking this to overtime. He knows where 1 is. The bomb's in a bad spot, and it's Dozier to close it out. And that made a hell of a lot to him as well. What an incredible game from Gambit. An incredible start as well. Their T side was something to be remembered, and G2 having to be reminded of what happened against that Mouse game until they suddenly started building it back in round 10. But not a pretty one for G2 there.
Absolutely not, and for a team that, credited a lot of their success as of late due to their, down to their confidence, they have to feel shattered at this point.
Yeah.
They were looking at going through to this 3-0, easy as you like, then get absolutely destroyed by Mouse Sports, and now they get, a pretty significant beating from Gambit here. This was Gambit's game all the way through.
Yeah, 100%, and 100% credit to Gambit more than anything. Individually, they played so well as well, and they played as a team. Their T side looked so formidable. It's an absolute pleasure to watch that, and G2 need to go back and reset, because that's pretty devastating to be put in that position now. I'm kind of surprised to be seeing it, if I'm honest.
The pressure that's on them, because they were one of the teams that we felt were a lock to make it through to Cologne. Absolutely, with the way they've been playing as of late. And now, at the brink of elimination, Gambit on the other side, already through to a major. And, well, they were somehow, I guess we should have known better, but we kind of went through the entire tournament expecting them to always drop off, but they never did.
And the thing is, I should have listened to Semley. He tells me smart things that you should never trust in G2. They are the heartbreakers. They'll build you up and break you down. That's exactly what they've done here. But enough from us. Let's head over to the analysis desk, see what they had to say about that matchup.
Thanks, guys. Indeed, I will be picking the brains of Natu and Blue, but first a reminder that it is not done yet. Yes, we've already seen another team secure a spot at the major. Gambit doing it against all odds and against the better judgment of the analysts here on the panel. But also, we have a last chance saloon for the remaining teams. We have 6 teams now. We're going to have 3 more one-map wonders going down after the draw does take place. With these results locked in, we're going to go ahead and start running that algorithm, randomly generating, of course, another set of games. And those games cannot, I repeat, cannot be repeat matchups. You will not see Tyloo versus G2 again, and so on. I'll explain more while the algorithm does its thing, but first let's talk a little bit about that matchup. Gambit doing it against what we said, a better judgment. Natu, Blue, what have you got for me?
I mean, this was a very similar affair to the way we're playing against FaZe, to be honest with you. Bar, Fox, and those 2 massive rounds, basically, that just broke Gambit. We can see Hooch is pretty happy there right beside us for a reason, because they were playing phenomenally. I thought they've been playing really well all through this week, to be honest with you. Yeah. Like, really been grinding those rounds, and like the way they play is like they have both these really simple executes where they just pop flash out of somewhere, and also they can play really methodically, slowly, just making the numbers favor themselves before committing to a bomb site. And
just while I'm still have you, Natu, not just the Mo show as well. They're not this one-dimensional team that we sometimes frame them to be. Gambit, I think, no doubt, the dark horse of this tournament, of this qualifier. And big shout out to Spaze as well, an individual who has no doubt exceeded expectations. Blue, what do you have to say about G2 and how they just seem to be joining? It seems something about French teams and not knowing where on earth their form lies.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. It's like we come into this event, it's what is it? It's Shox and Scream, right? That everybody's hyping up, and in that matchup again, Shox just goes missing. We don't know what happened. Went from gamers 2 to 2 gamers, and well, it wasn't necessarily 2 gamers anymore in that one.
Well, Scream didn't have a frag for the first 6 or 7 rounds, so he finally started delivering as well. Yeah.
Not the first time this week either. I mean, again, it felt to me a little bit also that G2's individuals were kind of missing, and seemed like they were really disconnected from one another in all situations, both sides really.
And I mean, we'll be seeing more from them. That's what's so exciting about today. I mean, any CS fan is most definitely cancelling any plans they may have had for a Sunday evening, because they've got some serious big games on the cards. Just 3 of the 6 teams I have on this piece of paper: Tyloo, Hellraisers, Dignitas, Cloud9, Flipside, and G2. Just 3 of that 6. That's a pretty stacked 6. Will make it to the Cologne Major next month.
And all bets are off right now.
Yes.
It seems to be.
It's going to be some
that way.
hearts are going to be broken among the next 3 or 4 hours here.
Yeah.
We figure out who exactly is going to be going to the major. It's going to be fun.
It certainly will be fun. I do see Hooch standing by with Mitch. Not too sure whether they're ready. Mitch, give me a nod if you're ready, mate. He looks like he's ready. All right, then. Let's have a look at a very excited Hooch who has just secured his spot at the major with Gambit.
Thank you very much, dude. Yeah, I'm going to keep this one short because Hooch definitely has some backs to slap and some hugs to give out. But, dude, you walked in here still celebrating. You batted in. I haven't seen jumping like that since back home, seeing the kangaroos jump over the fences, mate. You look absolutely ecstatic. Tell me a little bit of what you said before we started this interview about how it feels right now.
It feels amazing. It just not for the sun. I can't say that words, but it feels like really good. I'm proud of my team, of my teammates, and they played really good game, and I helped them a lot. So I'm just proud to be a part of it, and I'm happy that we are going to main event. Just lit.
And look, you guys, every time we come back to the hotel after we sort of finish up here, it's always you guys sat at the front, relaxing, enjoying each other's company at the front of the hotel, just having a drink and laughing. You guys need to get along just really well in general, and I just see like a lot of mutual respect between you guys. Would you agree with that?
Yes, we have a good chemistry in the team. Like we have a young guy who we joke about a lot, and like we know each other for a long time. And it's boring to sit just like after the games and like so we just having good time playing Uno and just preparing for the games. So as it looks, it works.
Well, thank you so much for joining me over the weekend as well. You've given us such great insights. Go and celebrate with your team. Go and enjoy, dude. And there you have it. That is it. It's going to be Gambit going to the major. Incredible stuff here as well. Now, are we coming back to you, Alex? Yeah, we are. So we're going to come back to the analyst desk as well. We do need to find out our last 3 matches of the day. These are the last of the qualifier and the last chances for those 6 teams competing. A couple spots left for the major. Alex, I'd like to find out who's going to be able to grab them.
Thanks very much, Mitch. Yeah, this is, you want to hear this. Okay, so stick around. You guys stick around. We have the draw, and these 3 matches truly are going to be turbulent, I think is the best way to describe them. I have them on a piece of paper. We can show you guys at home as well. This is the draw. Tyloo versus Dignitas. Just one of every single one of these matchups is going to be going to the major. Following that, Flipside versus Hellraisers, a CIS affair, and just one will make it. Will Hellraisers be able to return to the major, or Flipside? Are they going to break that habit of attending every single major? Following that one, G2 versus Cloud9. 2 teams that have been struggling with form. Now they'll have to find every scrap of it in order to get themselves to the major as well. I am starting to get a little nerdy and a little excited. You can see the excitement building because all 3 of those matchups do promise to be fantastic. Guys, I mean, like, can you choose one out of the 3? I'm not sure I could.
Tyloo versus Cloud9 has got to be the highlight of that one, considering that both of those teams have been consistent
Tyloo Dig.
Our apologies. No, I meant G2 versus Cloud9 is what I meant to say there. G2 versus Cloud9, when you consider the fact that both of those teams have been very consistent presence at the majors for so long now, and now one of them is not going to be there.
Yeah, and G2's form the last 2 games, I mean, it's been horrible. I think they've picked up, what, 10 rounds out of the last 30 or so they've played?
Yeah.
So it's not a great form they're in right now. Cloud9 kind of, you know, the T-sides have been what they have. Their CT-sides are okay, but the T-sides are not great for it. So this is going to be, yeah.
What a heartbreak that would be for G2. Like, just talking assumptions right now. If Cloud9 somehow managed to win that game, and after G2's like amazing run over these past couple of weeks, ever like since starting a Pro League finals, that now they don't qualify for the major. Like, who would suspect that to happen?
I mean, there's already been heartbreak, right? You know, word on the street is Immortals were, you know, weeping after not making it to the major, and now, you know what, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a similar story for the ever-passionate G2 and co, should they not make it. Of course, that will be our final game of the night. You've got a fantastic night ahead of you guys. For any CS fan out there, do be sure to tell your friends what is about to go down. There's only 3 spots left at this qualifier, and there are 6 teams competing. There's not much more to be said about that, other than it's time for a quick warm-up between Tyloo and Dignitas. They're going to go ahead and set themselves up for the first game of 3, and we're going to catch our breath as well as we prepare ourselves to get ever closer to having a locked-in 8 from the offline qualifier. Stay tuned.